Hey guys, I just want to take a minute to say, first of all, it's great to have everybody here today. We appreciate you making time for our food for thoughts. Obviously, we try to really strive to make sure that at Lake Point we're getting the right information to our clients, and it's been a challenge, to be upfront with everybody during this time of this pandemic to do so. But I'm really proud of how we continually delivered good information to our clients, and got it to them so they could have that information. And obviously, we talk a lot about the basis of investments and planning, but it's nice to have some information that's a little different, a little fun. So I'm kind of excited. I was asked to be a part of this food for thought today, and I was excited to do so because it's a subject that I have a lot of my clients personally, talk to me about as with part of their plan. My name's David Kane. For those of you on this call that don't know me, a lot of you do. I've got a lot of my clients on this call. I've been with Lake Point for many years, and so I'm very excited to have this opportunity to talk to everybody, just not my clients. So, today's food for thought is on RVing. And I personally, in my practice, I have a lot of my clients that are RVing, that are professional RVers. I was telling Anthony, I'm about to introduce him, but I've got some of my clients, they have regular travel schedules. And so it's really exciting. As a matter of fact, when I talk to them, first thing I ask is, hey, what are your travel plans? So I kind of know what's going on. So it's exciting. So today, what we've done at Lake Point is we brought together one of the top professionals in the North Texas in the RVing industry, Anthony Miller of Vogt RVs. And so I'm really excited to have him here. When you start thinking about this subject, it can be a little bit intimidating, but after spending some time with Anthony, he's really knowledgeable and it's exciting. And so I'm going to turn things over to Anthony in a little bit. He's going to go over some things, and then we're going to have a really unique opportunity to do some question and answers. I've already got a lot of questions coming in, and when they do come in, we'll try to get to all those. And so first and foremost, everybody, this is Mr. Anthony Miller from Vogt RV. Anthony, I'm really pleased to have you here, excited to have you here. And I want to thank you for making time for all of our clients today.
No, thank you, David. I appreciate it. I love talking about RVs. I started in this industry back in 1996. I started with the Vogt family back then. I've worked exclusively with them since then. I've had a lot of different roles at the dealership. I'm currently the director of marketing here at the dealership, but I was in sales for a long time, so I understand how that works. When I started doing this, the internet really wasn't a thing, so I kind of designed my sales process around educations. I feel like education is a very important part of the RV buying experience. It can be extremely overwhelming for somebody who is, even if they have researched it, there's so much out there. There's so many different models out there. There's so much information out there. There's so many dealers out there that it can really become overwhelming when you make that decision to start dipping your toe in that RV pool, if you will.
Yep.
So I really appreciate you taking the time to have me on to hopefully help with some of that.
That's awesome. Well, one of the things I just like to start off, like if I were personally going to say, hey, I want to possibly invest, what's the first step? What's it, somebody consider doing, if they're getting serious about possibly, getting into the RVing industry?
So one of the first things you have to consider is what type of RV are you going to buy? Because there's a lot of options out there. I'll try to break that down. There's really two groups if you want to have a really high overview look of it. There's the things you tow and the things you drive.
Okay,
so
good.
In the world of things you tow, you can kind of break that down into two subgroups, if you will. There's travel trailers, and I'm going to be low tech. I've got some brochures here for the products we sell. For those that don't know, that this is a travel trailer. So something you just tow right behind your vehicle. They come in a huge variety of sizes. They start as small as 16 foot, 15 foot, and they go all the way up to 35 or 40 foot.
Hey, I don't mean to interrupt you. That kind of brings up a point. So say if you're new to this, right? And you go and you have a structure of a vehicle, say like 34 foot, are there requirements that you have to meet to be allowed to, drive that type of vehicle, that type of size?
So a lot of it has to do with, so when it comes to just state legalities, it has to do with the gross combined vehicle weight rating of the truck and the trailer. It gets not complicated, but there is a lot of technicalities there. So I can share. I actually found we talked a little bit about this yesterday. I actually found a really good website that I can share with all the clients that they like, that really breaks it down. But unless you're going very, very big, both motorized and travel trailer, you don't need any sort of special license. So unless you're going to go into that big area of something large. But if you're going to stay with something small, if you're going to go with a medium-sized motorhome, your regular driver's license would be just fine.
That's great. So, one of the things I was thinking about too, and if somebody's going to buy an RV, I mean, like for me, for example, if I wanted to buy one, I mean, that's great, but I really don't have a knowledge of the parks, if you will, or the network, okay? Because obviously, if you want to take a trip, say from here to Montana, so if say some of our clients want to engage somebody like you, and they decide to work with you, is that something you could help them with so they can understand the networking and where around the country they could go to get to these different RV parks and such, so they could get a little bit of an education?
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of different networks, if you will. There's Thousand Trails, there's KOA, there's the Good Sam networks. There's a lot of network of different campsites across the country. You can join those groups. A lot of them have a membership system where Thousand Trails, for instance, for $500 a year, you get 31 free nights in their campsites. So that's a great, and that's something here at the dealership, we give everyone a free membership to that for their first year when they purchase an RV from us. So that's a great way to start. But there's also tons of state and national parks. There's tons of private parks. It's really hard because I equate RV parks to hotels, right? I mean, you can go stay at the No-Tell Motel, or you can go stay at the Ritz-Carlton. So there's going to be a wide range of not just how nice it is, but the amenities they offer. Some of them have clubhouses, some of them have swimming pools, some of them have restaurants there at the campsite. So it's really just a lot of it's trial and error, just because I don't know what style of camping you want to do. Some people like doing that. For instance, if you like fishing, there's a campground down in Port Aransas. It's right on the ocean. It is super simple. I mean, there is no frills to it. You park in a parking lot, but the beauty is I walk out the door of my RV, 10 yards that way is the ocean, I'm fishing. So while that's not going to be one of your nicer campsites, but if you like to sleep with the ocean sound at night, it's a beautiful way to camp for that.
Yeah. Why don't we start by kind of you breaking down the options, I guess, and I don't want to just say tow, because I think I have a couple of clients that have I think is it referred to as the Class A? Is that right?
Class A, yeah, the Class A. And I can as a matter of fact, let me take an opportunity to let me finish the towing thing too. So there's actually two groups of towing. There's the trailers, then there's the fifth wheels. So the fifth wheels are going to be more like what you've seen that look almost like what a tractor trailer would tow. You have to have a truck to tow those. The benefit to those is they are a little easier to tow because of where the weight and the pivot point sits on the bed of the truck versus the tail end of the truck. If you're going to go really big, if you're looking for something that's 35, 40 foot, usually fifth wheel is a better way to go because it's just a little easier to tow something of that size. But for both of those products, you're going to need trucks. You're going to need some sort of truck or some sort of large tow vehicle. Your Honda Civic isn't going to tow a travel trailer. You're going to need something that's going to have some sort of towing capability. And we can discuss that too. But as far as the motorhomes go, the motorhomes really break down into three classes. There's the Class A's, that's kind of what you mentioned a while ago. That's what most people think when they think motorhome is they think Class A.
Yeah.
They think the big bus style motorhomes. But those don't always have to be big. Those you can get a 27 or 28 foot Class A.
Oh.
They come in two flavors. They come in a gas powered or a diesel powered, and that really is going to be how it's what kind of chassis and engine it has underneath it. there's benefits to both. The gas motorhomes tend to be a little less expensive. So if you've got some budgetary constraints or you're not sure you want to jump into a really high-end motorhome because you don't
Right.
like it, gas motorhomes are a little more economic way to go. They don't have the same power as the diesel motorhomes. They don't have quite as good a fuel economy as the diesel motorhomes. But it's still I still sell a ton of gas motorhomes. So, and then when it comes to the smaller coaches, you've got a class B, which the class B is going to be like a van.
Oh,
So think of your old happy time kind of camper conversion vans. That's what a class B is.
I have the clients, Alexander's, their parents have a Mercedes in that class right there. So I'm a little bit familiar with that. Yes.
And the Mercedes chassis is very common in that motorhome right now. It gets tremendous fuel economy. You're going to get 15 to 18 miles per gallon depending on the size of the motorhome, which I know doesn't sound awesome, but in the motorhome world that is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I had another client, the Steinbergs, Wendy and Michael. They had a gorgeous one. Now they're in a bigger fifth wheel now, but they had a really nice Mercedes too. So yeah.
And the cool thing about those little class Bs is some people use them as daily drivers. You can get them as small as 19 foot. So if you need something that's say you commute a lot or you've got very long commutes, you may say you have a lake house down at the coast or ocean house down at the coast, and you just want something nice to drive back and forth. Most people in the class B world, they're not spending several nights in a row camping in that class B, right? Okay. They're driving it from one nice place to another nice place, but they have the facilities to use the restroom on the road, to make a sandwich. And if they want to stay overnight somewhere, they can do that.
Yeah, that's good. I've got a question from a client. Sure. Between diesel and gasoline, and they're basically asking longevity wise, I guess, and I'm not an expert on engines, but common knowledge, you hear diesels always outlast gasoline, and they're asking the price difference. Is it beneficial? Is there truly better longevity in the diesels?
So technically, yes. I mean, diesel engines are always going to last longer than gas engines. Now, here's where the rub comes in with RVs. You don't put enough miles per year on your RV typically to wear that gas engine out at the same pace. So if we were talking gas versus diesel trucks, something you're going to put 15 to 20,000 miles a year on, yeah, that argument kind of comes into play. Okay. But in reality, most people on a motorhome, if you're really using it, you're putting 3,000 to 4,000 miles a year on it. So will you wear it out? You're probably, I don't see a lot of wore out motorhomes, if that makes sense. Even motorhomes that are 15 to 20 years old may only have 60, 70,000 miles on them. So that diesel versus gas argument in that respect, I don't think is that crucial. Now, when it comes to power, so
that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
If you want to tow something, so say you've got say you're a car collector, right? And you've got a trailer that you take your car to car shows. You probably want to go diesel because those diesel motorhomes will pull 10,000 pounds plus, where most of your gas motorhomes are going to be limited to 5,000 pounds or less. Not to mention just the way gas engines work versus diesel engines. If you've already got a 20,000 pound vehicle and you're going up a 45-degree grade over 25 miles, you're probably not going to be going real fast when you get to the top of that hill in a gas motorhome. Where in the diesel motorhome, you're not going to lose any torque or any power going up because of the higher torque over that hill.
Yeah, so that kind of answered another question when somebody asked. It was about the towing, and they were just saying, so if towing's important, I mean, the diesel probably would be the best way to go.
Yeah, if towing's important with you, I would really stress going diesel.
That's good.
And you can get, and that's now when I say diesel, we're talking diesel class A's, because the diesel Mercedes that we're talking about, it's not going the towing isn't going to be an advantage to that motorhome.
Right.
It's still only going to tow about 5,000 pounds. So, because it's a small block, it's a very small diesel motorhome as far as the engine goes.
Yes. Is there one thing, if somebody's getting into RVing, that you would kind of guard them against? I mean, for example, a lot of times people get emotional about making this type of purchase. And so, I've got somebody asking about it. How do you choose for my lifestyle? What's best. And so obviously somebody gets in your showroom and they get all excited. They might see something. I mean, so do you, and this is kind of an important thing because they're going to spend a lot of money, right? So
Yeah.
do you make sure, I mean, one of the reasons we had you on here is obviously because you guys' reputation is just the best. And so if somebody comes in, you keep them kind of in line of what's going to fit them, kind of like we're licensed fiduciaries at Lake Point. So we're always doing what's best for our clients. And on a purchase like this, you could kind of get emotional. Say, hey, I'd like to. So
Yeah.
when somebody comes in, do you experience that a lot? Give us a little feedback.
Yeah. So I really try to. So there's a lot of shiny things with a lot of bright lights when you walk into my dealership. So yes, I really try to. We don't want to interrogate the customer. We do want to know: are you traveling with kids? Are you traveling with grandkids? Do you see yourself staying in this unit for 3 or 4 weeks at a time? Were you thinking more 2 or 3 nights at a time? So we do try to kind of get some feel, because you're right. If no one's ever RV before, they may not know how they want to RV.
Yeah.
So I really want to get you in that. My goal is to sell you your second RV the first time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because
That's a great statement.
From a selfish standpoint, I don't want to sell you something and see you back in 3 months. We're not going to be happy with that second transaction because you haven't had the unit long enough. These aren't bricks of gold. They're not worth more tomorrow than they are today. So it behooves both of us to get you in the right unit the first time. Now that doesn't always happen, right? So a lot of times, here's the most common issue I have. I have people who come in, they got grandkids, they swear their grandkids are going to travel with them. They're back in 6 months, their grandkids went 2 times. So they bought this unit with extra sleeping capacity that they're never using. So if there's one group of folks that I see back a lot, it's the grandparents. And I don't blame them. Grandparents love grandkids. My dad said if he could, he would have had his grandkids first. He wouldn't have had me. So, grandparents love their grandkids. So, but you got to think, are you really going to travel with them as much as you think you will?
I think that's part of that emotional thing. Hey, we have another question from a client. Marguerite asked, let's kind of move on. She's asking about Class C.
Okay, yeah, I see that. So we kind of skipped over that. So if there's one unit that's kind of in between the A and the B, it's the Class C, which doesn't make sense alphabetically. But the Class C is going to be a motorhome that's on a cutaway chassis. So in other words, the manufacturer buys that chassis with just the front cab, and they build everything from the cab back. If there's one animal that has the most variations, it's the Class C, because they come in a huge variety of sizes. You can get them as small as 22, 23 feet. You can get them as big as what they call a Super C.
Wow.
As big as 39 or 40 foot. Now that's actually a diesel motorhome, still a Class C, but you can get them on gas, you can get them on diesel, you can get them on that little Mercedes chassis. And there's a huge variety of pricing in a Class C's. I mean, you could get into a new Class C in the $60,000 to $70,000 range, or you could go as high as $220,000 if you wanted to. There's just a lot.
Is that like that Super C that you were just showing us, something like that?
Yeah, that Super C is going to be in the upper 180 to 190 range. But big doesn't always mean expensive too. I mean, bigger doesn't always mean expensive, because there are some manufacturers out there that build smaller motorhomes that are very expensive. Airstream builds something called an Atlas, which is going to be kind of like this one right here, but it's going to be 25 foot long. It's on a Mercedes chassis, and it's about $240,000. So, again, there's just a huge variety of the Class C. Now, the Class C is frequently a very good starter motorhome, because you can get into the regular gas Class C motorhomes for not a lot of money if you want to kind of get into something. And I say not a lot of money. Not a lot of money is relative, but
yeah,
in comparison to some of the other RV options out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That makes sense. I've got another person asking a question as far as insurance. Do you address that when somebody purchases, one of these units? I mean, obviously it's used for recreational purposes. Are there any liabilities? Basically the question's asking any liabilities that need to be addressed, as far as that goes. And then how do you go about insuring it? Is it certain companies, or you just go to your normal, Allstate or whatever. Talk a little bit about that.
That's a great question. So a lot of it depends on how you pay for it, obviously. So if you finance it, the lenders are going to want a full coverage policy on it. If you're just buying it cash, or you can just do liability like a car. So it's very similar to an automobile. As far as where to start looking for insurance, if you've got a good relationship with your insurance agent, go there first. But always do your homework and double check what they tell you, because some insurance agents, if they're not familiar with RV insurance, they may give you some outrageous quote. Just national companies that I know do good RV insurance, Geico and Progressive, I see those a lot. I know that our service departments work really well with both of those companies. Just from a other side of things, if you have to bring your unit in for an insurance claim, we work really well with them. Your insurance should be somewhere for full coverage, somewhere in the $2,400 a year range, somewhere in there.
That's not bad. I've got another question that popped up. As far as maintenance, a lot of people, when they buy a vehicle, they might, be under warranty. What type of warranties come with these vehicles?
So warranties vary a lot. Most manufacturers, just as a whole, are 1 year. That's going to be on the whole coach, 1 year. Now, let's talk about trailers first, right? So trailers are going to have a 1 year warranty. Jayco, which is one of the brands I sell, has a 2 year factory warranty. It's really the best warranty out there. So not to just plug my product, but I think you won't find anybody else out there with a full 2 year warranty on it. Now, when we're talking motorhomes, you have to look at those warranties as two pieces. You're going to have the motor piece and the home piece. So you're going to have one warranty that's going to run through the manufacturer of the chassis. So that's going to vary whether it's a Ford or a Mercedes or a Cummins or a Freightliner, whoever built that chassis. That'll be one of your warranties. And that's going to be similar to an automobile warranty. It'll have a year limitation and a mileage limitation. And then you'll have the home part, which will be through whoever manufactured the motorhome, be it Jayco or Tiffin or Airstream or Pleasureway, whoever did that, you'll have a warranty there. Now, some of your parts of the motorhome will have their own individual warranties. So even though you have a 1 year warranty on, say, the whole coach, the roof material will have a 10-year warranty.
Good.
Tiffin gives you a 5 year structural warranty. So it's going to be very dependent on the product you buy. But that is really one of the first questions you want to ask when you start getting down that road and you think, hey, I really like this product. Start asking about the warranty. Now, from a service standpoint, RVs have a lot of service involved with them. It's not expensive, but you have to service your RV, or else you're going to have potential nightmares down the road. One of the biggest things that you want to service on your RV every year, I really recommend checking it twice a year, is going to be the roof. Because the roof, when you hear nightmare stories of people whose RV leaked and the walls rotted, the floor rotted, that sort of thing, 99% of that can be eliminated with proper roof maintenance. So you can do it yourself if you want to. It's just a matter of checking the seams on the roof. All roofs are going to have some sort of seam system where the roof joints to the walls, where the different apparatuses attached to the roof. You can check that yourself if you're a handy guy or gal. But you can also have us do it for you if you want. So, we do it's in the benefit of having us, not just, I don't just mean Vogt, but us as a dealer collective, having a dealer do it for you is if something does happen, now the liability is on the dealer, right? The dealer's the one that sealed that roof, not you. But then you want to check things like you want to check tire pressures. That's really, really important. When you hear, again, a lot of nightmare stories about I pulled my trailer on the third trip and the tires exploded or the tires went flat. A lot of that has to do with just checking the pressures before you go, because you got to think that trailer may sit a month, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, and temperature is going to change. Those tire pressures have to be correct. The air conditioner needs to be maintained once a year. So whatever dealer you buy it from, a lot of them will have some sort of annual or semi-annual maintenance program that they can get you involved in.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So people, because a lot of us aren't going to have the capabilities, obviously. So I think that, if you're going to invest the money, it's good to make sure to take care of. I've got another client talking about, asking your take actually on a slide-in camper. He's got a a diesel 3/4 ton truck with a slide, and it said it's been a great starter. What's your opinion on that? How do you feel about that, Anthony?
They are a really unique part of our industry. They're a very small part of our industry now. And then there's two reasons for that. One is they're very expensive. Now, I'm not saying that they're not worth the money. It just depends on how you use it. So they're great for guys if you want to tow a boat, or if you want to tow something behind your truck, but you still want to have an RV or camping facilities. They're great for that, but they are very expensive. Lance is probably the top brand out there in sliding campers. You do need to have a large truck, 3/4 ton at minimum, usually 1 ton, because they are very heavy. They aren't real, they're not real user friendly when it comes to taking them on and off. They're not real easy to take on and off the truck, obviously, because they're actually sitting in the bed of the truck. So they typically have some sort of jack or lift system to lift them in and out. But the people who use them absolutely love them. You just don't have a lot of options out there when it comes to them, and you need the most important thing is making sure you have enough truck for it.
That's a good thing. I got a question that just popped up about storage. So, for example, I've got a neighbor that lives down the street, and they have a Class A, but they built a garage on where they can, have theirs right there. But storage. So, what are typical cost factors? If obviously you can't store it in your home, you got to go somewhere. So, give us some insight on that.
So, kind of like my answer when it comes to the parks, storage is the same thing. So you could have some guy out in no man's land that's got a giant gravel lot, and you go stick it on that gravel lot, you'll probably spend $50 a month. On the other extreme end of that is there's places that have indoor concierge style storage where you stick your motorhome in this big warehouse facility. You call them up, you say, hey, I'm going on a trip Friday. They'll wash it, they'll gas it, they'll water it, they'll have it pulled up and ready to go.
Wow.
So two extremes, right? You're probably going to spend $300 to $400 a month for that. What I stress is one. So what I think is important about all this storage thing is, one, make sure it's close to your house, because if it's not close to your house, you're not going to use it.
Use it. Yeah, good point. Great point.
If you stick it out somewhere far away, it's 30 minutes away, you're not going to have those fun last minute whimsical trips that you will if it's just 5 to 10 minutes down the road. So make sure it's close if you can do that. And I don't think indoor storage is important, but I do think if you can get covered storage, it's important. And here's why. One, we live in Texas and we get hail. And while you are going to be insured and that will cover the hail damage, sometimes hail damage is just getting it fixed is more of a pain than it's worth. So two, when we're talking about the leaking issues, I was talking about roof maintenance. Sun can just deteriorate and it really speed up that roof deterioration process. So if you can keep the Texas sun off of the top of your RV, it's just going to make your life a lot easier.
It's funny, not to back up, but again, I don't know a great deal about RVing, but I never thought about this roof thing. And it's pretty important. If you think about your house, obviously it's a much stronger roof composite, but so that's a great point, because I think if you're going to invest the money, you want to take the steps to maintain it to where it's not going to cost you money that doesn't have to happen if you do that. So that's a great point.
Exactly
so
right.
The covering of it's good. And then the sun, that's a great, that's good too. So you do recommend, if you're going to cover it, store it, at least have it covered, not necessarily inside, but at least covered.
Yeah. And I think you can get covered storage reasonably priced, $100, $150 a month, depending on where you are and where you are as far as in relation to the metroplex. Because of course, the closer you get to the major cities, the little more expensive it's going to be.
Yeah. I have a lot of clients that have the fifth wheel big rig. But they made the arrangements on their property to have, so they can back the truck and everything in there. So I've actually had it in the Steinbergs again. They've got a unique little tool that helps them move the actual RV inside the garage. It's like a little motorized 2-wheel deal. I forgot what he called it, but anyway, he said I just had to have it because I couldn't. Without it, it's impossible. So there's other things you might end up seeing you want. So maybe touch on that.
Yeah. So that's it. Those are interesting. So those are there's a couple different manufacturers that make those those toe jacks. They're great.
Okay, that's
if
what
you
it is,
have
toe jack, okay.
So say you have a very sharp curve. Say you got a rear into your garage and you have a very sharp curve into that garage. They're great for that because sometimes you can't make that backing curve, especially with a travel trailer because you have limited turning radius.
Yeah.
But that's something, something we really pride ourselves on here at our dealership is when you come talk to us and we give you a very long. So let's talk about this real quick. So when you buy an RV, something you want to make sure that the dealer does is a pre-delivery inspection. So you want to make sure that dealer thoroughly vets that RV. I don't care if it's 10 years old or 10 days old.
Amen.
You need to make sure they thoroughly vet that RV before you come to pick it up. And number two is make sure they're going to give you some sort of walkthrough orientation. You're probably still going to have questions afterwards, but we spend 3 to 4 hours with somebody when they come to pick up an RV from us. We walk you all through the outside, we walk you all through the inside. And what led me to this statement is you asked me about extra things you may want to get.
Yeah.
That's going to really vary depending on what RV you get. But whoever does that walkthrough with you is also going to give you full recommendations on, hey, I think you need to get A, B, C, D. Whether you buy them from us, whether you get on Amazon and you buy them there, it doesn't really matter to us. But again, we want to make sure that the customer is happy and they're enjoying their experience. I don't want them to be out on their first trip and see that the trailer next to them has these things. I'm like, why the heck didn't he tell me I needed those things? We want to make sure you have those things with you before you go. Yeah. But again, that could vary from trailer to trailer, from RV to RV.
So Anthony, and this is kind of for me, but we've got a question. So if I were to break down each type of RV, right? You got the A's, the B's. Let's do price range for each class. Can you do that? Am I putting you on the spot too much to give a basic price range?
I mean, no, you're not putting me on the spot, but I'm probably not going to give the most beneficial information because there is such a wide range when it comes to options, different quality of units. But let me take a stab at it. Okay, so travel trailers, you can get into a travel trailer for as little as $10,000 to $12,000, depending on what size trailer. If you want something small, you want something simple, you can get it. Like I said, you can get into I got some little Jaycos here. You can get into them for $12,000, $15,000 if you want something really nice, or relatively nice. Fifth wheels, you're probably going to jump up into the 35,000 plus range for a fifth wheel. You can. So the median cost, let's talk about what's the average on a fifth wheel.
Yeah.
Probably going to be closer to the $60,000 range on a fifth wheel for something that's nice. You could go up to 100 if you wanted to. You can probably go down to the low 30s if you wanted to.
But so that's a good range for the fifths then. That's nice. Okay, great.
Motorhomes, Class C motorhomes. Like I said, you can get into something in the mid 60s if you wanted to, and you can go as high as 180,000. I would say probably 80 to 90 is your average for something that's decent on those. Class A's, 90,000, probably 80, 90,000 for a starter. But I mean, the sky's the limit on that. We've talked about that. You can go as high as $1 million if you're in a Prevost coach.
Yeah. But
for something decent in a gas motorhome, you're probably going to be in the low hundreds. For something decent in a diesel motorhome, you're going to probably be in the 275 to 300 range.
That's good.
Class B's, those little vans.
Yeah.
You can start in the 70s. You can go up to 180 in those if you want to.
Well, so that sounds like, I mean, there's a place for everybody. It sounds like,
we kind of think so. Yeah.
I mean, and then another thing is I've got a question, somebody's asking about, you get your first rig, then you want to trade up. I mean, do you have clients that come back and trade in and you can and kind of take them to the next level? Is that something that you see?
All the time. Yeah. Probably 65% of my business is repeat and referral. So people tend to get into a life cycle of RVs. So most people start small and then they get progressively bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And they get to the age where they can't drive that big one anymore. So they go back smaller, smaller and smaller and smaller. So, so most people trade on average, probably every three to 4 years. It's probably an average trade cycle for us.
Wow.
It can be sooner. It could be longer. I've seen people hold on to things for 10 years, 15 years. I've seen people trade in 6 months out down the road. They decided their lifestyle was different than they thought it was going to be. pre-owned is always an option. You don't necessarily have to buy.
That's the
new.
next question. Kind of cool. They were talking about used. So now let's slow down on this because I think this is important because maybe somebody who's considering getting into RVing, they're going to say, hey, I'm going to do a used first. Or like me, I've got a friend of mine, he's actually one of the advisors. He's an ace on buying cars. He's just an expert, but he never buys a brand new car. He always gets a heck of a deal. I mean, he finds, I'm like, how'd you find that? But so let's talk about buying a used RV. First of all, is Vogt a good dealership to come to for that? And give me some of your feedback on how you personally feel about doing that as kind of getting into the industry.
So yeah, pre-owned is a great way to get into the industry if you're not sure if this is what you want to do. Say, because they do, new anything new is going to depreciate, right? You drive it off a lot. It's not not a brick of gold. It's worth less when you drive it off a lot. So used is always, or pre-owned is always a good way to go. So we are very particular here at our dealership about pre-owned. We don't take anything in that's got water damage, it's got roof damage, it's got structural damage. So we want people to feel fairly confident when they buy that pre-owned coach from us that it's been vetted and it's not going to have those things that you don't want. We also, that same pre-delivery inspection and walkthrough process, that's the same on a pre-owned also. Now, just from an industry as a whole, unlike cars, warranties don't transfer on RVs. So say that you find a heck of a deal on a pre-owned unit that somebody bought and traded in 6 months later. You're not going to retain any of that warranty when you buy that as the second user or the second owner.
Okay, so I just want to stay there for a second, and it's just me asking this question. So in that case, regardless of what class you're buying, correct? Warranties don't transfer from, so it's just, okay, that's a good point to know. That's good to know.
The manufacturer's warranty on the RV does not. Your automotive warranty will transfer.
Okay, perfect. That's great.
So
that's good.
And that's going to vary depending on obviously the manufacturer of the chassis.
Mm-hmm.
Now there are we do offer some extended service policies. So if you do purchase one from us, we do have some great options there. From a cost perspective, that's probably going to run you 4 to 5% of the sale price of the RV. So whatever you're buying, if you wanted to get that extended service policy, they tend to go up to 4 years.
Okay.
There's going to be different levels of coverage based off of what you're purchasing. When I go into Best Buy and I buy a TV, I always say no to the extended service, right? I always say no.
Yeah.
But there are so many moving parts in an RV.
Yes.
I think it's you're spending a lot of money on this thing. I just think they're a good thing to buy. I think that you're really doing yourself a disservice if you don't. Now, we as a dealer put 90-day warranties on the used RVs.
That's nice.
Depending on the age. So I think we go back 7 model years. So anything 7 model years or newer, we'll give you a 90 days of coverage. And it's a limited policy. It's not going to cover everything, but it's going to your air, your refrigerator, the major expensive things on there. We'll cover you there for 90 days.
Yeah.
And we've been here a long time. Vogt RV is one of the oldest dealerships in the state of Texas. So we really try to take care of people. But yeah, pre-owned's a great way to go if you can find them. Right now, it's pretty crazy. Right now, it's hard to find good pre-owned RVs right now.
Well, that kind of leads into the question we're getting. I mean, what if somebody buys one and they want to restore it? Like you were saying, you give the warranty on 7 years back, so obviously older than that. But how difficult is it to restore? To go through that process? Is that something that's doable?
So let me tell you, a lot of people when they think restore, they're thinking of these guys, right?
Yeah, awesome.
That's what they're thinking. So yes, I mean I'm an Airstream dealer too, so we haven't touched on that, but we do sell Airstream as well. So yeah, if you wanted to go the restoration route, Pinterest has killed me when it comes to restoration because everyone has these beautiful RVs on Pinterest and Instagram that they restored. It is so if you're going to retire, it's a good way to spend your retirement because you're going to spend a lot of time doing it. Depending on the RV, I wouldn't buy something, just any old RV to restore. I would look into something that's more collectible, like an Airstream or a Silver Streak, or there's a few brands out there that have a collectability aspect to them. And if you're going to restore, I would look for something like that. It's like cars, right? If you're going to restore a car,
Yes.
You're gonna buy an old Camaro or a Corvette. You're not gonna go look for an old Honda Civic to restore. So do the same. I would do the same thing when it comes to RVs, but it can be very
Gotcha.
expensive. I mean, especially when it comes to the Airstreams. I get people in here all the time that want to do a full restoration on their 70 on a 77 land yacht. Yeah, you can do that, but you're probably about to spend more money than you would on buying a brand new Flying
Yeah.
Cloud. So,
Yeah.
consider that. Do you want to spend time restoring it or spend time traveling in it?
So I've got another question that came in. If somebody came into your dealership and say they did some things that just weren't off the lot, you had to order, have it made in, how long is a typical time frame if they don't pick something off the lot? Which obviously you probably have a great selection, so you're hoping that you have something there that'll fit their needs. But if somebody had to order something in.
So we're doing a lot of orders right now, but part of this whole COVID thing has really made inventory availability pretty slim. I do not have the same selection that I typically have. When you walk on my lot, I'm going to have 80 to 100 different RVs to show you.
Wow.
I may have 40 to 50 right now. And when it comes to motorhomes, I think I've only got a handful over there right now. So, yes, if it's now in the less expensive travel trailers, I don't see that as much because there's not that many choices, right? So
yeah,
somebody's not probably going to want to wait to order a $15,000 Jayco. But if you're going to buy a $350,000 Tiffin Phaeton, for instance, I want to make sure you get the right colors because you can pick your outside color, your inside color. None of that's a problem.
So you can order that, Anthony, and that's not a problem. It's just a matter of waiting, in other words.
Yes. Now you can't just get anything. So you can't just come in there and go, okay, I want to move this cabinet.
Right.
There's a set list of options and specifications that we can choose from. So, a lot of people think of custom homes and they walk into a custom home and they're like, well, I don't want that wall there. I want to add a cabinet here. You can't do that in an RV. So we've got limitations. But yes, ordering is not a problem. Time frame could be anywhere from 3 months to, like, one of my brands is out almost 18 months. So,
wow.
And that you see that a lot in the more, boutique, smaller manufacturers. Leisure Travel is who I'm referring to. Leisure Travel is a really big name right now in the small motorhome game. All they build is small motorhomes, and they're an outfit from Canada. They build beautiful, really nice rigs. But they don't build that many, and they're a small company, and they're very popular right now. So yeah, you order a Leisure Travel motorhome, you're waiting 14 to 18 months for it.
I got another question. I didn't even think about this, but this is probably a good way to consider getting into RVing, and that's renting one. So, like, what would the typical cost to rent, say, a Class B or a Class C? And then if you did rent one, I'm just kind of stepping out on a limb. The second phase of this question is, if they break down when they're rented, I'm assuming that you're always taken care of if you're on the road, something happens if you're renting these RVs. Do you have any feedback you can give us there, Anthony?
So I don't rent here at my dealership, but I can tell you that a lot of people use that as a stepping stone to getting into RVing. There's a couple of, probably the most popular way to rent right now is RV Share, which is basically a peer-to-peer rental system. So people, you own an RV, right? And you're only using it 13 weeks out of the year. What do you do the rest of the year? Well, these people will actually rent their RV. So
cool.
RV Share works as the middleman. Now, when it comes to breaking down on the road, I can't speak to that. I don't know, because I've never been in that industry before, so I don't know how they work. I would think there would be some sort of protection there for you, because it behooves them to not have their RV that they rent broken down on the side of the road. Yeah, but RV Share, it's a website. That's a good place to go. If you live in the Metroplex, there's a place called Quest RV that rents RVs.
Awesome.
They do everything from little trailers up to, I think they do some big motorhomes. I know they do some Airstreams. So if you wanted to give Airstream a try, they do that. I think you're probably going to spend $150 to $250 a night renting one.
Okay. Hey, let me ask you this. We have a good question that popped up. As far as, say you're in a Class A or even a bigger, unit, regardless. I mean, obviously, if it's a fifth wheel, you got to learn how to back up. So what about, what if somebody has no experience at that? Is that something, if somebody's considering making a purchase from you, that you'll help them with? kind of get them some experience?
I've got so to a limit. I don't do that, but I will give you some advice. I will test drive with you. I will help you, or not me personally, one of my guys who will do that with
Okay.
you. Now there is because that's a very good question. I get a lot of people ask that because it's intimidating, right? You're buying
Yeah.
a 45-foot bus. I mean, it seems silly that we just throw somebody behind the wheel and let them drive that down the road.
I think they can do it without ever having any experience.
So there's actually a guy who has a company here in Dallas Fort Worth called RV School.
Sweet.
He's very, very good. Now the downside to RV School is you have to actually own the RV first. So
They don't have RVs for you to use, in other words.
no, so you buy
Okay.
the RV from me or somebody else. You set up a schedule with him, and he actually takes you through a 2 or 3 day process of teaching you how to drive your RV.
That is, so I would assume that you share that information with a lot of the new people
I
who are
do.
buying from you.
He's very good.
That's good.
He does it one-on-one with you. I don't think he's very inexpensive. I don't think he's very expensive. But yeah, RV School is the name of the place. He's actually based in Grand Prairie, but he'll come to wherever you want him to come to.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I think that just shows how much you care about your clients. If you're saying, "Hey, look, I know you're probably a little apprehensive, but boom, here, that's really a good thing there. I like that.
I'm on the road with these people too. I don't want to run me over.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, I got a question popping up about like service maintenance, and you have if they buy from you, you have a facility there, so they'd be able to, anything that's needed, you don't have to send it somewhere else. I mean, how does that work?
Sir. So customer service is incredibly important to our dealership. So we have a dedicated service center. So we physically have 4 locations here. Just speaking of Vogt, we have 4 locations. We have our main sales center. We have an Airstream sales center, and then we have a little satellite sales center down near Houston and Willis. And then we have a standalone service center. So besides the Willis location, those other 3 locations are within about 5 minutes of each other here east of downtown Fort Worth. Now, there is a few things that we are limited that we can't do. So chassis work. So if you have a problem with the chassis, meaning the engine, the transmission, I don't have the mechanics or the facilities to do that for you. I can help facilitate that. I can tell you where to take it. We can help you with scheduling and all that.
Excellent.
Depending on the chassis. So I can't do that. I do have some limitations on body work. So now when it comes to the Airstreams, I can do full exterior restorations on an Airstream. When it comes to limited fiberglass work, so say you get up next to a tree branch in your motorhome or your fifth wheel, and you've got something that needs to be a patch that needs to be fixed, I can do that. If we're talking about a real major body issue, I can't do that. But again, I can help facilitate that for you. But anything else, we can do that here for you. If you wanted to upgrade your RV, there's a lot of things I can do for you there too. You wanted a different air conditioner, change the furniture, anything like that. You wanted to add solar panels, all that, we can do all that here for you.
Yeah, it kind of leads into a question we've got. What if somebody's like, hey, okay, I'm done with RV. I just want to sell my RV. Is that something you'd help them with?
Yeah, so we actually love to do that. We have a consignment program that we do here, so we can do it 2 ways. We can buy the motorhome from you. So you say, hey, David comes up and goes, I'm tired of this RV here, and I'll just write you a check and I'll take your RV from that. Now we're a business, so we're going to give you wholesale value for it. So you're always going to net more money selling it yourself, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes there's an advantage to getting a little less money for it and having somebody else sell it for you.
Take care of it. Sure.
So if the option 1 is me just buy it from you. Option 2 is me consigning it for you. So what's the difference? Consigning means that I'll take your RV on my lot. I'll have it sit here. It'll net you more money. I'll usually consign for more because there's no liability on my part. You're not getting any money until the RV sells.
Yeah.
The way we do our consignment program is pretty unique. Most places will consign and they'll take a percentage of the sale price. I set your dollar amount up front. So I'll say, David, I'm going to consign your RV for $10,000. Now I'll probably sell it for 12, and that's where I make my money. But when it sells, you're going to get $10,000. It's not going to be I'm going to take 3% for this and 5% for that. But yeah, the nice thing about us doing it is 1, the safety factor. You don't have to worry about some weirdo coming to your house to look at your RV.
Amen. Yeah.
Two, if somebody has a trade-in, I can facilitate that, where if you're selling it yourself and somebody has to sell their RV, that can create stickiness. If they want to finance it, I can offer financing. I can service out the RV before they take it with them.
That's
And if
great.
they don't like the RV, I'm the one they're going to come yell at, not you. So,
Well, it sounds like then you kind of have a full circle to really help people, whether they're new coming in, that you can get that if they've obviously got some experience, and if they're ready to say, hey, I need to sell this unit. It sounds like Vogt's really built and obviously, and how many years again has Vogt been in business, Anthony?
well, that's a point of contention, right? Because Danny Vogt, who started the dealership, actually started when he was 18, selling camper shells on his granddaddy's boat lot. So that was in 1963. He went from there and got into the car business. And then there was a time when he sold both cars. And so if anyone's been here a long time or lived in the Metroplex, there used to be a dealership over on I-20 called Vogt Pontiac GMC.
Oh yeah, I remember it.
So and back in 1974, he took on his first motorhome line at that car lot. And and then I don't know for sure what year, I want to say around the late 70s, early 80s, he got out of the car business completely and just dedicated himself 100% to RVs.
Yeah.
So you make sense of that timeline. So, I know that we've sold Tiffin motorhomes for 45 years because we just had our 45th anniversary with Tiffin motorhomes. So I kind of use that as the time frame.
Well, I think that's awesome. And the reason I wanted to kind of just touch base on that is because obviously if you're going to make an investment like this, and you want to be working with somebody that's got a good history that is going to be there for you, you can count on, and it has the services that you need to help, and so you have an enjoyable experience. So I think that's really good. I think just in closing, the last thing I wanted to kind of just bring up, how would you help somebody, decide, what's a reasonable starting point for somebody? I mean, because what I mean by that is, what if somebody's not a camper, and like you said a couple of times during this last 45 minutes, you don't want to sell them something they're back in 2 months because they're not happy. So, I mean, how would you direct somebody as far as their budget going to get, to find out what's a good starting point for you to be spending money on? I mean, obviously, I don't know if somebody's going to jump right into a Class A. I guess they could. But I mean, how would you go about helping somebody with that?
So the first thing I typically ask is do you think you want to tow something, or do you think you want to drive something? And that will help direct where we're going to go from there. If they say tow, then we have to discuss the tow vehicle situation, right? If they don't have a tow vehicle, that $20,000 trailer can turn into a $70,000 or $80,000 trailer because now they got to go buy something to tow it with.
Yes.
So that's when it comes to budgeting and thinking about your finances, that's something you have to consider too. So if I know they're going to go the tow route, I know what vehicle they have, then we start talking about how many people are going to go with you. Where do you think you like to go? Because you have to consider things like temperature. Do you like to camp in the really cold? Because if you camp in the really cold, some RVs aren't going to work for you because some RVs aren't going to be designed for that.
Yeah.
If you're going to go the drive route, then we got to kind of talk about, what are you comfortable driving, right? Have you ever driven a big vehicle before? Do you feel comfortable driving a big vehicle? Where are you going to store it? You want to try to keep it at your house?
Great question.
And I'm being very vague, and I hate that I'm being so vague, but it's kind of like a choose your own story, or those old choose your own story books where when you get to page 3, you ask a question and that'll tell you what page you need to go to next.
Yeah. Well, it's just a lot to think of, right?
Yeah. And until I have somebody in front of me and I'm asking them these questions, it's hard for me or one of my salespeople to direct them in the correct path.
Yeah.
I can tell you this, we will do our darn hardest to make sure that we're getting you in the right RV the first time.
And that's a great attitude.
That's the best answer I can give you for that. Because everyone has different tastes, everyone has different budgets, everyone has different ideas of what they want to do with the RV. And it's just hard for me to give a blanket answer of what that could be.
Yeah. Well, I want to tell you something. I really appreciate it, and I've learned a lot from you today. And again, I'm a novice at this. Again, a lot of my clients, I've got some serious experts at RVing, believe me. And as we sit down and do a review or we're talking on the phone, it always comes up, and it's exciting to hear about their trips. So I will say that. I want to thank you personally and thank you on behalf of our client base for being here today, Anthony. And then the last thing I'd like to do just for everybody on this call is I just want to share Anthony's information. You know, if any of you on the call or, you know, wanting to get more information, you know, Anthony is a great source for that. You know, he falls in line with how we do things at Lake Point, being concerned about his clients. Obviously, you know, the reason I brought up how long Vogt's been around is because, you know, they survive because they take care of their clients. So real quick, the website to Vogt is www.vogtrv.com. So vogtrv.com. And then Anthony's email is simple. It's anthony@vogt.rv.com. So you get to him there. And then if you want to call him for any reason, you want to get other information, you want to discuss anything, his number is 817-831-1800. So again, that's 817-831-1800. I want to thank everybody that's been on this call. Thank you for your time. Look forward to having you on our next call. Wish everybody just a wonderful weekend. Anthony, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And giving us your expertise.
Thank you very much. One other thing too, we do have a great YouTube channel. So if you do want to see some walkthroughs, if you're interested in RVs, we've got tons of walkthroughs of RVs. It's just YouTube and just search Vogt RV. We just did a 3.5 hour Tiffin rally this last weekend. So if Class A motorhomes is what you're thinking about, I have 10 different Class A's. The walkthroughs are anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. So a good way to see a lot of them at one time if you want to. But we've got trailers and fifth wheels, and there's an Airstream channel too that you can get to from there too. So we got Airstream walkthroughs. You'll see my dumb face all over the place. So you'll get sick of seeing me eventually.
Well, I got to tell you, man, that's great. So yeah, I love YouTube, man. If I don't know how to do anything, that's the first place you can go. So
yeah.
So you've got some great walkthroughs so people can actually see a complete kind of presentation on some of these rigs then, in other words.
Yeah, and we've even got some complete service walkthroughs. So one of the things that we've had to pivot to with COVID is doing a different delivery process, right? People don't want to come to the dealership, so we basically ship the RV to them, but we don't want them to miss out on that walkthrough experience. So I've got several walkthroughs there that some of them are 3 hours long, but if you
that's
really
awesome.
Get into the nuts and bolts of an RV, my technician will spend 2-3 hours walking you around that RV. So you'll see the same thing that you would see if you came and purchased that RV.
That's wonderful. Well, listen, man, thanks for that piece of information. Hopefully some people will take advantage of your YouTube channel and get some great information. And again, I want to thank everybody for the call. Hope everybody has a great day.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Take care.